This episode is sponsored by Meter, the company building better networks from the ground up. Meter delivers a full-stack networking solution, wired, wireless, and cellular, all in one integrated system. From design and deployment to management and support, Meter takes care of it all so your business can stay fast, secure, and connected. Thanks to Meter for sponsoring. Go to meter.com/fierce network to book a demo now. That's meter.com/fierce network.
Telcos are drowning in debt. No, not financial debt, though they do have some of that too. I'm talking about crippling amounts of technical and data debt, which could keep telcos on the sidelines of the AI revolution. I'm Diana Gooverts, and this is the 5-9. With the advent of AI, telecom companies have a once-in-a-lifetime chance to make some serious cash. You see, for years, they've been at the heart of, well, everything. All of the apps you use, all of the shows you watch on your Apple TV or Fire Stick, all of the calls you get, and the messages you send, those all run on fixed or mobile telecom networks. The catch is that telecom companies haven't really been making that much money off of all of this network usage, aside from the monthly mobile or home internet fees you pay. Now, AI in theory could thrust them back into the services game in a big way, but they have to move fast to get their foot in the door. And right now, technical and data debt are stopping them from doing that. Technical debt refers to the cost required to fix all of the old issues and duplication in their IT and network infrastructure. And data debt refers to all the problems that have accumulated from poor data management practices. So, everything from siloed storage, poor data governance, and inconsistent data. The reason these are such a big deal is that AI runs on data. Put another way, AI outputs are only as good as the data that goes in. And that means telcos need to clean up their act if they want to get the most out of AI. So today, we will be looking at just how bad the situation is, what telcos need to do to make it right, whether they can move fast enough to ride the AI wave, and what they stand to gain if they do. Tackling this topic with me are Fierce Network Research's Linda Hardesty and Davide Bellini, who is Data and AI Global Industry Lead for Communications, Media, and Technology at Accenture. Linda, Davide, let's jump right in. So, Linda, I know you've spoken with some communication services providers recently about this whole debt, technical debt, data debt issue. What does technical and debt look like on the ground?
Well, the topic of technical debt has come up for me in a lot of conversations this past year. Apparently, both wired and wireless telecommunications companies are burdened with a lot of technical debt. The topic first came to my attention via a company called OneVision. I know a lot of people haven't heard of OneVision, but they actually do play behind the scenes at a lot of big telecom operators, and they help their clients to manage their inventory and other assets and to track processes. And the CEO of OneVision told me that service providers and enterprises also have been struggling for decades to manage their data, and they've collected a lot of it in Excel spreadsheets. And I was pretty surprised to learn that major companies were still keeping tons of their valuable data in Excel spreadsheets. This made me realize that the telecom industry is dealing with some pretty antiquated processes for data, at least in some areas of their business. And I don't think that this sets them up very well for AI, to say the least.
Yeah, and definitely for the cloud migrations as well. But David, I know that Accenture has done a report on this recently. So do you have some more color that you can add? How does technical and data debt impact operations today?
Yeah, thank you. Well, yeah, we ran a survey on more than 250 telco executives in the industry on these topics, and then the number that come out are quite in line on the situation Linda is describing. Right, more than 70% of the people interviewed see data debt as one of the main obstacle in scaling AI across the enterprise. And the more you go deeper in the research, the more interesting things you find. For example, executives declare that they spend more than 68% of their time just in cleaning and fixing data, and the minority time left to make meaningful analysis and spend actual time to go through the numbers. And to comment on Linda observation is not just and it's true, a large estate of disparate Excel files, but these companies often come from merge and acquisitions, and therefore they inherited siloed data architecture that not always was possible to merge and harmonize during the time because it's expensive and requires quite a lot of capex. So this is one of the reasons why they are in this situation of what we define data depth, which is exactly the missed value that cannot be achieved because a data estate and the type of architecture represent an obstacle on that.
Okay, so I mean, I guess the next logical question here, this is a huge problem. So the logical question is, how do we fix it? So, Davide, what goal should telcos and other enterprises who are tackling data debt strive for? And where do they even start?
You're right. It is a very difficult challenge, right? So it's not that the industry has done necessarily a poor job. It's just that it's a very difficult topic to approach. I would say that the first game changer in approaching this topic is to consider data with a value driven approach. Consider data as a product. Not all the data are the same, and not all the data are as important to generate value. Not all the data have a variability that happens often, and not all the data are critical for certain business processes, right? So not all the data are the same. And so far, very often they've been approached the same way with a technology angle, right? Rather than having an ownership from a business standpoint, a proper P&L, a proper life cycle, and the limited capex that is available to manage the data so they can be allocated with a value driven approach and go incrementally instead of boiling the ocean, right? That's the first important difference. The second element is that data serve a purpose, which is in this moment the reinvention of company processes through AI, right? So organizing data in an AI ready architecture, and not just organizing them for the sake of cleaning and lineage and quality, but make them consumable from the modern AI, make them available for the largest employee base, is the way to enable the democratization of AI, which is one of the main characteristics of this new AI, if you pass me the term, versus the traditional machine learning that was more in the hands of a very limited group of data scientists, very competent and knew what to do with data. And the third aspect is that technology can also help in creating these modernization patterns, because now AI is also an element to facilitate this evolution and the acceleration of this journey, right? So we today we have new technology that we didn't have literally just 3 years ago, that can help speed up the process.
Absolutely. And I want to dig into that point a little bit more in just a second. But Linda, I know that you've been having conversations with a wide range of people about this, and so I'm kind of curious, what's your sense of where people are? Are there any operator segments you feel might be further ahead in this journey? Are there some that seem to be lagging or struggling more, or maybe aren't even thinking about this yet?
Funny, I think everyone's thinking about it, but there's definitely some companies that are further behind and some that are further ahead. I feel like companies that are still dealing with hardware technical debt will have a harder time. Earlier this year, I was asked to moderate a panel about AI in cable networks. But when I had a panel prep call with the executives, I asked them how they were using AI in their networks because that was the topic of the panel, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, we're not even close to that." And they started talking about their hardware and how they're just trying to clean up a lot of that. The conversation kind of devolved into talking about Cisco's command line interfaces and some really technical problems just dealing with a mishmash of old hardware. It seemed like they hadn't really evolved to disaggregate their hardware from their software. So we really couldn't talk about AI in their networks at all. And our panel discussion actually ended up talking about cleaning up technical debt. Um, so, yeah, the cable companies. In terms of operators that might be further ahead, I would point to Rakuten in Japan, in the telecommunications space. They built a greenfield mobile network based on open software, and they very thoughtfully planned out how to manage all their data from the very beginning. Of course, they had the luxury of being a greenfield operator, but now they're kind of leading the charge on doing some interesting AI things in their network. For example, they've been using AI in the field to verify that work is done properly. I guess photos have always been something that telecom companies have used in the field. Field techs finish a task and they take a picture, and they send it to the central office where in the past a person would at some point check that the work was done properly. But now they can send that picture and have AI immediately compare it to how the work was supposed to look and how it does actually look. And if something is amiss, then the technician can fix it right then. Like an example would be if some weatherproofing was supposed to be put on some pipes and the tech forgot to do it, then he'll be immediately notified, you need to fix this. Um, So the benefit is that in the old days, the tech would probably leave the job and then maybe a day later, he'd be notified that something's amiss, so he'd have to go back and it just would waste time and money. Um, and so now AI is streamlining that whole thing and making people more efficient.
They have the advantage of being greenfields. Obviously, the work is a little tougher for the brownfield, and especially, as both of you have noted, folks who have gone through several different acquisitions. It's a hot mess out there. I think Lumen has spoken openly about this, how over the years they've just kind of had a pile on and a pile on, and they've recently been really working hard to sort through that. But Davide, I wanted to circle back to your point about AI being used to solve the problem that is needed to enable better AI. So we know AI is only as good as the data that's fed into it, but also AI can help sort data. So talk to me a little bit more about how that works and how that can be applied for telcos.
Yeah, it might sound a little bit counterintuitive because it's a good data, good AI type of approach, right? That there are a set of capabilities that generative AI and agentic AI can bring to the table that didn't exist 3 years ago that are very useful, in particular to solve the problem of the reverse engineering. Because with this siloed architecture and stratified, customized data platform built in the past, a lot of the problem in cleaning up and modernize comes from not knowing what the actual platform do, because there is lack of documentation or because they are heavily customized and you lost the historical memory of such customization, and it's kind of something that it works, so nobody wants to touch it. Otherwise, things are going to start not working anymore, right? And it becomes very expensive to interpret and understand what the legacy systems are doing. And in the past, this activity was completely done manually. And literally, I've been in engagement where we had to open the code and literally read the code to understand how a data or a KPI was calculated or a lineage was managed through a pipeline, etc. Right? Now all that work can be done by AI. We have a telco client in Europe where we created a full metadata catalog by plugging generative AI to the legacy platforms and to the tables and ETL procedures. So AI was reading the code, reading the table, and creating a catalog on multiple layers, like a functional catalog, so explaining to the business people, these are the KPIs that are available. This is the definition of the KPI. These are the areas where this KPI can be used if you are a marketer and want to run a campaign, or if you're a NOC manager and you want to monitor the quality of your network. But also where these data are located, in which tables, if there are duplication of KPIs, or if there is one KPI calculated with three different, slightly different formulas that doesn't allow you to have a single source of truth, right? All these saved up to 90,000 hours of coders' work, yeah, which is material benefit, right? So I'm not saying is the new forms of AI represent a crystal ball to automatically transform the data estate, but provide a significant help in accelerating all the reverse engineering. And also, once the new data architecture is put in place, in keep managing such architecture to keep a certain level of quality of the data and lineage and regression testing. Those are all capabilities that can be automated through agentic and AI, so that data architects can focus on creating new data products or in expanding the footprint of type of information that are managed. Not to mention all the help that can come from interpreting unstructured data, which again is something that was requiring a lot of effort in transformation in the past, and now can be interpreted as it is, like the images that Linda was mentioning before, through AI, and can add significant value and additional information to portfolios of data that were traditionally used in the past. Think about churn prediction models, right? Which is the one of the deepest area of machine learning, trying to understand what is making a customer not satisfied and likely to abandon the telco company and move to a competitor. Now there is the possibility to interpret the literally the conversations that happen between the customer and the agents, and understand the mood, and trying to identify elements of frustration or dissatisfaction that are relevant for that type of information. So it's true that good quality is needed to have good AI intelligence and outcomes, and that remains valid. And this is the reason why we are pressing our clients so much in solving this data debt. But at the same time, technology can help in getting there.
And it sounds like the benefits aren't trivial. And I think just for our audience who may or may not know, unstructured data is everything that is an image or a movie, or so all your PDFs, all your photos, all your video files, all of that information that contains a wealth of data, but maybe just not in a structured, Excel sheet format kind of thing. But Linda, I wanted to circle back to the idea that we're still trying to get over the if it's not broken, don't fix it idea. And you've been covering telco for over a decade at this point, and I'm just kind of curious, based on what you've seen from operators, not on this front, but on others. Do you think telcos can move fast enough to fix this problem and get in on the AI revenue generation opportunity that's in front of them?
Probably depends on the particular telco, but I have had some conversations with a consultant from this company called Alex Partners, and I asked the consultant how many telecoms are struggling with technical debt, and he said all of them, maybe with the exception of Rakuten. But Alex Partners does help companies to clean up their technical debt, and he said that it is doable. The first step is to audit and clean up their software, and that it's not as necessarily hard as you might think. They look at all of the software at the telco, and they start putting it into buckets, like, this is all network software, and this is service management software, and this is billing software. And then they look at what people in the company are actually using, because a lot of the software in these buckets, it'll turn out that they're not even using it, and or it's outdated, or it was only a partially installed. So the first part, maybe isn't that hard. We kind of joke that it's like, what is that Japanese lady, Marie Kondo? It's just kind of like starting to clean up and organize things.
Which of these software applications sparks joy?
Yeah. It probably does in the hearts of IT workers, maybe. Um, and then they look at their software licenses, and they take all of this information and they determine what should be kept and what should be thrown out. So, that's a good start to kind of audit and organize. Um, there can be complicating factors like software that maybe crosses more than one bucket. And so you have to decide, well, this group doesn't really care about that software, but this other group really does, and it crosses more than one bucket. So there are factors that have to be worked out. But after they get their software house in order, then they're finally in a position to collect data from the software, either in a master repository or perhaps they prefer separate repositories if they want to do agentic AI. And once they have accurate current data, then they can really start thinking about using this data to train AI models. But yeah, I think it's totally doable. It's a problem that can be solved.
Do you think culturally they're, in a position to move fast in the way that AI is just pretty much every couple weeks, there's some sort of change or breakthrough, and I just feel like, in my personal opinion, I feel like telcos are very hesitant to move quickly, in part because they operate critical infrastructure, like, that's a fair defense of their stance, but I'm worried they're gonna move too slow and they're gonna get beat out, and there's gonna be some sort of, equivalent AI, uh, application development in the way that they basically got the rug pulled out of them with OTT providers in the cloud shift,
Mhm.
and that was a massive loss of revenue generating opportunity, so I'm a little bit worried. I don't know if you feel the same at all. Just figured I'd ask.
Yeah, I mean, that comes up a lot in conversations, do you have the people to pull this off? Yeah, that's a good point. Telco is kind of people use the word aging out. It's populated with a lot of older people. It's not a sexy industry to be in at a time when there are a lot of sexy, job openings in AI. Um, so I that is a challenge, that's a fair assessment.
Davide, I want to give you a chance to answer on that to the extent that you want to, but I also want to ask you another question. So, do you think they can move fast enough? And also, my second question is why? Why would they even bother doing this? Is it worth all the hassle? I mean, it's gonna be costly. It's gonna be a little bit time consuming. So, why should they bother? And is it gonna be worth it in the end?
Yeah, to answer your first question, can they move fast? Um, I think they can, as long as they open their business model compared to how they used to be working for the past 30 years, right? Which was very inner looking type of operating model, like do everything by myself. Yeah, I can rely on certain vendors for certain things, right? But I control the full process with my organization. While now, exactly to leverage on exponential innovation and investment, especially done by hyperscalers and other software providers, they need to operate with a more open business model and be more available to types of collaboration where there are multiple actors that are part of the same program, because that will help them on one side from a technology standpoint in leveraging the innovation from the hyperscaler, from a skill and scale standpoint in leveraging help of organization like Accenture where I work, so that that type of speed and pace, I think it's difficult to achieve by themselves. And why? Well, why? Because all the evidence, and the evidence is not theoretical, is also the result of um, initial proof of value and engagements that have been happening now for the past 2 years, points in the direction of a material value transformation, not only internally for telcos that already went through several cycles of cost optimization, efficiency, automation. So they squeezed their cost base quite a lot already in the past years, and I think there is still room for improvement, but it's not going to be the game changer, right? Um, but for their customers, you correctly pointed out that telcos have run a business critical type of service, right? And indeed, connectivity combined with computational power is the truly differentiation element that they have, at least for the moment, in comparison with the hyperscalers. And AI distributed and connected, if you think about AI at the edge, type of intelligence that is more into vehicles, into manufacturing lines, so that requires to be distributed and much closer to the application rather than concentrated in large data centers buried in under some ocean somewhere, right? Can be enabled by telco. Telcos have the infrastructure, the competence to run that type of capabilities, right? So it's a win-win side of opportunity, both to streamline their operation, but also to provide new valuable services to their customer base. And so it's a material opportunity for value realization in the next years.
And I guess the open question is whether or not they can pull it off, which, of course, at Fierce Network, we will be watching very closely. But we will have to leave our conversation there for the time being. Thank you both so much for your time. And to our audience, don't forget to like and subscribe. And we'll catch you again soon. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.